Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So, yesterday we spoke about raising the hand with takbirat al-ihram and also with other takbirs as well. We mentioned that. And we also talked about placing the hand the right over the left and then over the chest. And then somebody brought up the question of the madhab of, or some of the followers of Imam Malik. Some of the followers of Imam Malik, they put their hands by their side and they claim this is the madhab. So I just brought you a short article about this subject. First of all, it should be noted that Imam Malik himself, he also narrated the hadith that says كان الناس يؤمرون أن يضع الرجل اليمنى على ذراعه اليسرى في الصلاة. This hadith is in Muwatta Imam Malik. He wrote a book of hadith called Muwatta, one of the earliest books of hadith. And this hadith is there as well. So obviously, and of course he included in that book what he thought was authentic. And it is authentic. It's in Sahih al-Bukhari as well. So number one, obviously, he knows that this is the proper way to do it. This is one thing. And then one of the biggest scholars, the most renowned scholars of Imam Malik's madhab, his name is Ibn Abd al-Barr. He was from Spain, Andalus. And he wrote an explanation of Al-Muwatta. He explained that same book. And he says about placing the hand right over the left over the chest, he says لم يأتي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيه خلاف وهو قول الجمهور من الصحابة والتابعين وهو الذي ذكره مالك في الموطأ ولم يحكي ابن المنذر وغيره عن مالك غيره. The meaning is that he says there is no, this matter is not controversial, he says. He says nothing else has been narrated or transmitted to us about this matter except this position of the right over the left over the chest, on the chest. And this is narrated from the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, the followers, the majority of the Sahaba and their followers. And this is what Imam Malik himself put in Al-Muwatta as well. Okay? Now, Imam Malik sometimes would give some kind of fatwa. Some people may understand it right, some people may understand it wrong. First of all, he did put the hands by his side late in his later years. Some people said yes, and that is because of a problem with his arms, as I mentioned. Sometimes Imam Malik gave certain fatwa that would basically, I don't know how to word this, but they would seem to go against what you would understand from the hadith. And I'll give you another example, just to make sure that the people don't consider it a rukun or a wajib. For instance, if he feels that people are going to take something as an obligatory act of worship, then although there's a hadith that encourages people to do this as a sunnah, then he would tell them not to do it. A good example would be fasting the 6 days of Shawwal. It is reported from him, and that's confirmed, that he disliked people fasting the 6 days of Shawwal. Imagine this. We all know it's sunnah. من صام رمضان أتبعه ستة من شوال فكأنما صام الدهر. We all know. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Muslims all over the world are doing it. But he used to dislike people fasting. And why is that? Because he didn't want people to regard this as part of Ramadan or obligatory. So sometimes scholars would do things. Even one time you sent me a video about someone Nawafil. Yes, sometimes scholars, eminent scholars, would do things that seemingly go against the sunnah, just to show the people that this is not obligatory. Such as one time also I heard Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis saying that Sheikh al-Uthaymeen, for instance, one time entered the masjid and he prayed in an open space. He didn't stand in front of a pole or the wall, which is the sunnah to take a sutra, to take some kind of barrier when you pray. He deliberately stood in the middle and with nothing in front of him. And then some students asked him after that, why did you do that? You know, it's a sunnah to pray towards the sutra. He says, I know. But he says, I also want to show the people it's not obligatory to pray towards a wall or something to block you from other people passing, okay? So things like this. That is how some of his students explained that he might have given a fatwa like this. But even that saying that he might have given this fatwa is a weak narration. What the people who are trusted in his madhab and in his book, explained his book, like Ibn Abd al-Barr says, no, this is the only position of Imam Malik, that he used to tell people to put his hand like this. I'm just trying to explain if we feel that some people imitated him or followed him otherwise, or heard the fatwa from him otherwise, this might be an explanation. You follow? That he didn't want people to consider it a wajib. As I mentioned, that some scholars consider this a wajib of the wajibat salah, but the majority of scholars consider it what? A sunnah. Which means if somebody puts his hands down, there's nothing on him, doesn't have to do sujood as-sahw, okay? This is one. What?
The explanation that were given then too was that because of old age, and
yes,
that, he has some sort of paralysis.
Yes, it's mentioned as well.
Yeah, that was the explanation that were given.
Yes, it is also mentioned here by some of the scholars as well, that he had a problem. Maybe that's what happened. That they think that this is what happened. I sent you another link. What was the other link about? Yes, it's ta'awudh. Before we go into the أذكار الاستفتاح, the أدعية الاستفتاح, before, maybe we'll leave this till next time, the ta'awudh, inshallah, because it's a totally different subject. Some scholars say that one of the symbols of, first of all, raising the hand like this in salah, it's like symbolizing total submission to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is what people, when they surrender, even in the past or now, when they surrender, what did they do? They raise their hands like this. It's well known in humanity that people, when they surrender, so this is a sign of surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and admitting guilt of sins. You come back to Allah Azza wa Jal in total submission and total surrender. And this is more likely to be forgiven if somebody admits the sins and shows humility and humbleness and submission towards Allah Azza wa Jal. This is one of the things. Some scholars, like Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, for instance, says that raising the hand like this is a symbol of as if you are lifting the veil between you and Allah, the barriers. Now you want to have a private conversation with Allah Azza wa Jal, and now you're lifting it. You're preparing and envisioning this kind of situation that now you are entering to speak with the King of Kings, Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of all Lords. You go like this. And some scholars said that when you're saying Allahu Akbar, you're saying that Allah is greater than all your worries and concerns and all this dunya, and you're throwing all these things behind your back as well. This is one of the symbols. And then also putting the hand like this is how people who are guilty, who are about to be executed, that's how they stand, like this. They're also showing guilt and submissiveness and humility. These are all things that we have to try to remember as well. We'll just take one of the dua of istiftah and then end at that to make it short. Now, adayat al-istiftah, these are certain dua or dhikr it is a sunnah to say, again, all this is sunnah, before you start reciting the Fatiha. And before you recite the Fatiha, you do A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. So before A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, there is dua al-istiftah. And there is a famous hadith in which Abu Hurairah asked the Prophet ﷺ about why does he pause a little bit? Why is there a period of silence between his takbir and his recitation? He asked him, what does he say? And he told him, this is what I say. He told him one of the ad'iyat, al-istiftah. Istiftah means an opening. Fatiha means the opening of the book, right? Istiftah means to open. So you open your qira'ah or dhikr or salah with one of those du'as. One of them is the famous one, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khata'iyaya kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal maghrib. Oh Allah, distance me from my sins, just like you distance between the east and the west. اللهم نقني من خطاياي كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. I'll just read the Arabic, then translate, just in case somebody wanted to memorize them in Arabic, then he would know what he's saying in English. So the first one is asking for distancing between the person and his sins and his faults, just like Allah placed the distance between the east and the west. اللهم نقني من خطاياي كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. Oh Allah, purify me from my sins just like the white garment is purified from any stains. So the first dua is to ask Allah for protection from falling into sin. The second one is asking Allah to cleanse the person from the sins that he has already committed, because they left a stain behind them, right? So that's a very important dua, that you asking protection from what you might fall into and what you have. Exactly. And then Allahumma ghsilni min khataayaya bil ma'i wal thalji wal barad. This is like asking Allah Azza wa Jal to protect the person from the consequences of the sins. The consequences like the punishment that may result from the sin. Okay? Sins do affect the person internally on his iman, and also they have consequences in the form of punishment that may come from Allah Azza wa Jal. So the third part of the dua, asking Allah to cleanse one from his sins, just to cleanse one from his sins, bil ma'i wal thalji wal barad, with water, with snow, and with barad, which is the hail. And scholars say that this is three different grades of coldness. Water is cool, then comes the snow, which is colder, and then comes the actual frozen rain, which is hard. The hail, that's even colder. Okay, we all know that when it's frozen like this, it's even colder. It's harder and it's colder. And why is that? Because somebody might say, oh, cleansing with hot water is more effective than cold. But here the cleansing is asked in three grades that are colder and colder. Why do you think this is? Can somebody figure out the answer? Why cleansing from the sins is with colder and colder? The colder it is, the better.
Because the heat is for the sin, right? Like the Jahannam.
Exactly. Because the punishment of the sin is basically what Allah has assigned as punishment for sin is fire, right? So as if he is asking for Allah for something stronger and stronger in coolness to take away the heat of the fire. We're not talking about physical cleanliness, we're talking about spiritual cleanliness. Also the sin creates all this, disturbance on the inside, and disturbance equates to heat, equates to boiling, right? The boiling of shahwa, of desire, the boiling of anger. All this requires something to cool it down. So the colder, the better. Okay? So we'll try it, inshallah. The wajib is, like we give homework, inshallah, to try to, the wajib is, and wajib not like wajib fard rukn, no. Wajib means homework here. Wajib is to try to remember the dua. It's only 3 lines. And inshallah, I will post the video with the explanation of this dua, inshallah. Stop here. Yes.
If, for chance, the imam, he is offering salah, and somebody joins the salah in the second rak'ah.
Yes.
Somebody comes from the backside,
yes,
and joins the salah in the second rak'ah.
Yes.
And per chance, imam offers 5 instead of 4.
Yes.
So is the 4th rak'ah of the person who joined 1 rak'ah late, is it done? Because he started on the second rak'ah, but imam made it 5.
Yeah, nobody will follow the imam in the 5th rak'ah. Nobody will follow him, because
all of us follow.
no, if somebody does the 5th rak'ah, then the followers, the people standing behind the imam, should not follow him. They should just wait and sit and say subhanallah until he sits back down.
So by the person that joined on the second rak'ah,
yes,
if he sees he's having an outstanding rak'ah to settle,
then he'll do it afterwards. The imam has to correct himself.
okay.
This rak'ah is not valid. This rak'ah that imam wants to add is not a valid rak'ah. It's not part of the salah.
So the person
should follow and he finds everybody sitting saying subhanallah, he's going to follow the imam. It makes no he'll look a little bit odd, yani. Okay.
Another question as well.
Yes.
And this is regarding sujood.
Sujood sahw.
Yeah, so if someone's praying in Jama'ah and they're the one who made mistake, like for example when you read something properly?
Yes, no. He doesn't, he should not do sujood al-sahw if he did a mistake behind the imam, because the imam removes all fault from the people behind him. Unless he did that mistake, if he came in late and he did 2 rak'at after the imam, he made a mistake there, he should do sujood al-sahw if he had made a mistake in that part. You follow?
If it's with the imam, then you don't have to.
You don't do sujood al-sahw with the imam. He does the sujood al-sahw on your. If he made a mistake, he will do sujood al-sahw and you will do sujood al-sahw with him as well. You know? Although it might be something that you don't know why he's making the sujood.
If that person makes mistake after the taslim of imam,
What?
if that person makes mistake after the taslim of imam, let's say he came in late,
Yes, he
so
should.
he's bound to settle it. Because
Yes.
imam will not carry that.
Yes, exactly. That's his mistake. He does it alone. Generally.